Hey, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. I'm looking at you out there on the West
Good
Coast.
morning.
You're
Good
probably
morning. Good
still in
morning.
your you're probably still in your first cup of coffee, right?
I am, in fact.
And if I know you, it's probably cold by now.
It is, in fact.
That's fantastic. Hey, there's
Well,
Marty. Marty, I'm digging the hat. Oh, you're muted, man. Yeah, Marty's muted.
I'm muted, sorry. I'm wearing my beekeeping hat. I got to go help Lori, so I just figured I'd check in with you all and um, just say hi before I headed out with her. We've got to pull a bunch of honey today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, got to
Nice.
sweeten up everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good
Is
stuff.
Tony on here yet?
Let's see here. Yep, Tony's here. Tony's here. There's Tony. Nice.
Tony will have to tell you about our crazy night last night.
Uh-oh. What
Uh,
happened?
well, we had to go out on a sales call, so
Yeah.
it was a
a prospect call.
very unique meeting. So he'll have to tell you about that sometime.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got in
nice.
my driveway at 1:35 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Needless to
wow.
say, it was a good prospect sales call, but definitely a long one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but you got a twofer.
I did.
You got a twofer, Tony. You met some good contacts. So
That's
Very
great.
good.
That's great.
yeah.
All right. So looks like we got a pretty good crowd today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And, if you know somebody that would be interested in attending, now's the time to send them a link and get them in here. So this is our Forward Focus ConnectWise Focus Planet virtual user group. And we appreciate you being here today. I know it's lunchtime for some of us. And so I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. Got some upcoming events here. Before I get to the events, though, real quick for we've got some new faces in the group. And just a quick introduction. I'm Bill Black. Some people call me the Bill Black. I don't know why. But so I started Focus Planet, 12 years ago? And our mission here is just to help MSPs navigate ConnectWise and kind of navigate the system itself, as well as, make connections and get help with running the business. So that's what we do. We have these monthly uh, webinars / user group meetings the first Wednesday of every month at noon Eastern time. So if you know anybody that's a fellow MSP that hasn't been here, feel free to invite them. A couple of events coming up. We have Chartech Immersion. It's a Chartech Roadshow event in San Diego, California, October 23rd through 24th. I went to the Immersion event in Pennsylvania, and it was a great event, very well attended, and a lot of really, really good content. So one thing that Chartech is known for is, just a massive amount of content. And so if you can make it to Chartech Immersion in San Diego, it's well worth the trip. Unfortunately, I've got a schedule conflict and won't be there, but I'll be there in spirit. So if you go, you can have a good time and have a drink on me. I'm not paying anyhow. So, and then also coming up is IT Nation Connect in Orlando. It's the annual big event for ConnectWise users, November 6th through 8th. If you haven't registered already, I'm not sure if the hotel is full. I think it is, but there are a lot of hotels nearby that you can go to. So if you've never been to an IT Nation Connect before, it's a really big event. There's thousands of other MSPs and ConnectWise users there to network with, as well as, a ton of vendors. So now the thing about IT Nation Connect, I'm going to miss that also due to a scheduling conflict. So usually we try to get a group together and have a nice dinner or something like that beforehand, but we'll have to take a rain check on that one and get caught up. So those are the events coming up. Today, before we dive in, we're going to look at 4 operational challenges with ConnectWise and what MSPs face. We do have some special guests, which I'll introduce here in a minute. Before we dive in, though, I need to clear the air. Nobody receives any kind of referral fees or kickbacks or anything from the solutions that we're talking about, or today's solution specifically. The insights that we're going to talk about are based on real world experience and the effectiveness that our guests have had using this product that we're going to talk about to help their team. So Keith Nelson, yes, you'll have to bring your own cigars to connect. Sorry, maybe I'll send you a few just so you'll have them. So today our guest speakers include some really good friends of mine. Dan Martin, which he's been a guest here before. Dan is really involved with helping MSPs through operations challenges. Dan is well known for coming up with different ways to help people with handling service delivery and everything surrounding that. Dan's also a well-known pig farmer. So if you're ever in the Texas area and you need some high quality pork products, Dan is the man. So also we have John Cruz. John Cruz is from the Cleveland area, and unfortunately he's an Ohio State fan. I'm not really sure why anybody would be an Ohio State fan, but John and I go back a few years, and he's a great guy to work with at Griffin Technology. And then we have Jay Hubert with Remington Computer Services, and Jay's in Rhode Island, which is really a nice place to be as we go into the fall here with the changing leaves and all that. So Jay takes care of the IT. He's kind of the manager of the IT and the operations for Remington. Remington's rapidly growing, and so Jay's got his hands full. It's kind of funny. We asked Jay for a headshot, and a little bio, and he was too busy to send us one. So we really think Jay might be in witness protection program. I don't know. Anyhow, you guys see him now, so there you go. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about 4 of the challenges that we hear with using ConnectWise. So ConnectWise does a great job of dispatching. It's one challenge. However, the challenge is it's not efficient. I mean, there's a lot of clicks and drags. There's a lot of things that have to be we have to keep an eye on to dispatch. Another challenge we have with ConnectWise and really any PSA is real-time time entries. So it's on a daily basis. I hear we how do we get technicians to enter their time on time? So that's a big thing. Here's one that Jay's currently dealing with. A few MSPs, we're hiring new technicians, and we have to train them. And the ramp for training in ConnectWise, it seems to be higher than it should be. There's a lot of little things you have to watch for, obviously. So new tech training is one of those inefficiencies. And then lastly, getting everybody to follow the process, getting everybody on the same page. So and that's across the board. That's with everything that we do. So today we're going to talk about Nylear to address those inefficiencies. And I've asked I think I'll start with Dan, and Dan's been a cheerleader of Nylear for quite some time, and the app has developed quite a bit over the years, and it's really more and more effective all the time. So Dan, I might start with you just by saying, what got you involved with Nylear?
Sure. So thank you, Bill. Yeah, I first got, I guess, started paying attention to Nylear when I was in the role of a service manager. And, these frustrations that you talked about are, were really, Nylear was the answer. And, for me to be able to, where it's harder for them to do it wrong than to do it right. Whereas in ConnectWise, you have to tell them, that this is a, make sure you follow this, make sure you check this thing, go over here, start your time entry, change the status, hit save, all of these different things that you have to do. Whereas Nylear allows them, really allows them to do what you hired your tech to do, which is to solve your customers' problems and not to be lost in the tool itself of the PSA app. So that's my kind of my short version of why I like Nylear.
Perfect. Jay, what about you? What prompted you to start using Nylear?
The MSP I came from, we introduced Nylear as we build out that team. Coming here to Remington, since I've joined the company about 3 years ago, we've doubled the size of the team. Nylear has allowed us to, one, reduce training time, two, bring consistency across the workflow when the techs are entering time, and three, and I think the biggest thing is reduce the amount of administrative time necessary throughout the life of the ticket, whether it's adjusting work types so they're right, sorting through minimums that could apply to tickets unnecessarily, and so on and so forth. But that has really been a game changer here. Just to brush on the training part, Bill, I told you I have two new employees that started just this week. They spent one day yesterday spending some time working through the Nylear platform. Today, both of my new hires are buddied up with more seasoned techs, and their essential role today is just to record ticket data for them. So they're just going to take notes for them the whole day, right? So with just a little bit of training, I'm able to get these guys to be able to hit the ground running. They're both techs, mid-level techs who have technical background already. We just essentially need to show them the way we go about things, and being able to get them into Nylear with a little bit of training. They're literally using it and functioning in it the way that my seasoned techs have been using it for a long time with minimal training. So that's really why we've come in here.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Yeah. So we can move ahead now with a little bit more information about Nylear and how specifically you guys are using it. Does anybody have any questions yet? Nope. Okay. So the first problem, is the inefficient dispatch tracking, and I'm going to hand the presentation over to Dan now, and maybe Dan, you could get started with this and take it from here.
Sure. So one of the things inside of ConnectWise in dispatching, there are a lot of moving pieces. And, one of the questions that people are often asking is, how long does it take? How long should it take? I'm a big numbers guy, anybody who knows me. So very, very much into the metrics. How many tickets can a dispatcher dispatch? How long does it take to dispatch a ticket? And inside of the native ConnectWise, if I'm not using the Nylear overlay, and I'll make a comment, Nylear is just an overlay that sits on top of ConnectWise. So it has its own app. We'll be looking at that a little bit later. But really, it is in real time updating ConnectWise through the API. So and it's making it a lot easier. And so one of those things that it makes it much easier for is time. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that because John's going to be hitting that a little bit later. But when I'm using Nylear, then I can have my dispatch actually tracking their time in real time on every single ticket. And we start to find that as we are doing that, it takes about 9 minutes to dispatch a ticket. And so that starts to now give us some metrics that we're able to find out, what are we doing? We have a new ticket that comes in, we start working on the ticket, we have another ticket that comes in, we have a phone call that comes in. So all of these things are going back and forth. And Nyleer allows us to be able to, properly apply the time to the ticket as I'm working on that individual ticket. So it makes it very, very efficient. One of the other things that I really like from a dispatch standpoint is often when we're looking at what is our response time? Usually that is not a very accurate number as far as if you ask your customer, because it's an automated email, thank you for your ticket, that kind of a thing. And one Nyleer allows you to separate out the email that you would send to the customer from the notes that you're doing. So that allows you to be putting your notes, internal notes, and then simply hit next, type out your email to the customer, hit send, change your board and status, and bam, your time has been tracked for that entire process. And it keeps everything nice and neat into the ticket. And now when I'm said that I've responded to the ticket, I truly have. And so it makes it very easy for my dispatch to be able to, operate. And I'll glom on to what Jay was saying. I had a person who was one of the companies that I work with, and she went into labor much earlier than had been anticipated, and she was our service coordinator, and so had to, at the drop of a hat, hire a temp to take over the dispatch role. And I just so happened to at the time that happened was on a Friday, and so we were able to find somebody. But I was on my way to Chartec in California, and so Monday morning I connected with the dispatcher in the East Coast for her very first day on the job. Spent 2 hours in the morning training her. And then during breaks between a couple of other of the some of the sessions, I followed up with her, and she was able to actually be able to dispatch fairly effectively with literally a couple of hours of training, and which typically would have been a disaster, especially in a mature organization that's used to full-time dispatcher.
Cool. What about real-time time entries? Jay or John, do you guys want to take this one? Nothing?
Okay, I could speak on this because this was one of the real reasons that we came over to Nyleer as well. One of the things that I noticed was as we were running through timesheets on a weekly basis was I would sit here and watch my techs who would be busy 8 hours a day. These guys are just overly busy going through ticket to ticket, so on and so forth. Then I would get there, ConnectWise timesheet, and it would have 5 hours on it. Obviously, we want to see more than 5 hours on a ConnectWise timesheet. I don't think anybody on this call wants to see 5 hours on a timesheet, right? We want to be able to maximize in our technicians. But the other part is it was more or less demoralizing to the guys. I mean, I watch these guys literally bust their behinds every day, and then I have to sit with them and try to get an understanding of why your timesheet looks the way it does. What I found was the techs were opening up ConnectWise. You have the ticket in front of you. You start working the ticket before you put a ticket in progress, or you start running a timer. Or the other part of it was what they were doing was they would work the ticket and then come back after the fact and put their time entry in. And what we were finding is after the fact is never accurate. It's never accurate. I mean, you can take notes and do the best you can, but it just doesn't work that way, right? So using a real-time time entries, when you click into a ticket, you're starting a timer immediately. So we really were able to clean up that delta between when a ticket was open sitting on somebody's screen and time that's actually going to be billed to a client. Because, I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's money. I think, Dan, when we were working with you last year, I mean, I think you were the one, we kind of talked about it. It's just money in a bucket being wasted. I think you brought up something along that line, right? Let's just create a bucket of money being wasted and let's put stuff over there. And that's the stuff we need to target. That was the easy way that we are losing money. It's not that we weren't busy. It's not that we weren't getting done. We just weren't recouping correct money from our clients because time entries weren't accurate. So with real-time time entries, I mean, These guys get into a ticket, immediately the timer starts running. We know that what we're going to be billing to the client is going to be accurate each and every time.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll add another comment to that. One of the things, techs have a tendency to ask, why is this that important, right? As long as I track my time. Two of the things that happen, one is when they're putting it in after the fact, they're going to self round. So they may have started at, 10:05, but they say I started at 10 o'clock. And, so those little changes. And then also when they create that time entry is typically a big difference from when they said they finished work. And so, from a liability standpoint, if I was involved from a legal perspective and somebody is having an argument with their MSP and we pull their time entries in the audit trail on there, and we can see that all their time entries are created an hour, 2 hours, maybe at the end of the day, the next day, it's very easy to say, hey, the information that you say that you're doing is not right, because there's no way for it to be accurate. Whereas when somebody who's using Nyleer, that number that we look at, which we call the time to time entry, is basically zero. So when they create the time entry, from when they said they create the time entry, is the same. And so it's going to be very hard for somebody to refute the information that's being put in.
Perfect. All right, we're going to keep moving here. So how about training new techs? John, have you had this come up or as a use case or?
Not so I know prior to Nyleer, any new technicians, we would go to what is given to us, and I go to the ConnectWise home, right? And they have their, I don't know what it's called. It's blanking
university.
on me, but yeah, the university, right? And so all new techs, I would give them a training of whatever the PSA is, right? Engineer technician. It's, I think, like 7 or 8 hours long. So like an entire day of ConnectWise training. And I found that the guys still, new hires will still have very little knowledge, like working knowledge of what they have to actually do. Like, I think it goes into very detailed information about everything, but what a technician is going to use is, maybe very limited, and it's all, ConnectWise is all over the place. So I just have 2 new hires recently, and I'm transitioning over to just training them in Nyleer and not ConnectWise. So I'm kind of figuring out how much time I'm going to be actually saving. So I'll have to keep everybody posted on that. But I just from personal experience, using PSA for, I don't know what, almost 9 years now, and implementing Nyleer, I was up to speed with Nyleer within like a half a day. It was very just, and that's with no formal training. That was just, Dan recommended it to us to use and set it up, and it was just very user intuitive just from the get-go.
Perfect. And then, from a process perspective, this is going to have to be a quick one, Dan. Is there anything specific that?
I'll just hit 2 quick ones. So one of the things that's really important from a service management and from a metrics standpoint is figuring out, what are your types, subtypes, and items. And so the only way that you can deal with that inside of ConnectWise is to make them mandatory, which then of course makes those mandatory on every single service board, since you can't do that by board. Nyleer allows you to set up the TSIs to be mandatory by board. So you may want to have, types, subtypes, and items only for maybe your incident board, your request board, and your problem board, and you may not care about your admin boards. And so it allows you to do that very well. The other thing is you can require configurations. So you can have it pop up when they're closing a ticket that doesn't have, or they're completing a ticket, putting it into a resolve status that doesn't have a configuration. Then you can have them prompted, hey, configurations are required. Are you sure do you want to add one? You can just hit yes, and it'll take you right there to add one. The final thing is in leveraging tasks, where it requires you to mark tasks as completed, as opposed to ConnectWise. When you just mark it closed, it automatically marks all those tasks as completed. And so you really get the ability to leverage tasks properly, to put notes into tasks, to have questions in tasks, all that kind of thing, for the communication stays inside of the ticket. And it's very, very easy.
Cool. Cool. So, yeah, so here's some examples, some screenshots.
So I can kind of talk a little bit about this,
Yeah.
Bill. So like, I know with ConnectWise, if anybody who's used it, like there's, all the pods, and like default pods has just them kind of like all the pods, just like from top to bottom. And, you can arrange it so that it's more palatable and more user friendly, but you are responsible for making sure that each pod has the correct information in it. And there's just a lot of, stuff all over the place, and it's very difficult to try to get text to consistently follow the same process and update all the information in a proper flow. And Nyleer does that. It starts the ticket, it opens it up, it obviously starts calculating your time from the second that you open that ticket, so that any research you're doing, that time's being accounted for. But it's like, and I don't think I have control of the slides like I did in presentation. So if you want to move forward, but basically it goes from, what are your working notes on? Well, after you work on the issue, the next thing you probably should do is, let the client know, is it working? Is it not working? What are the next steps? We got to update the client, right? Communication is important. So it goes to that one, and then next. And then, it's going to like, what's your work role? Is it billable? What type is it? Is your time, it's going to, have a screen of just showing what your time is, and it pulls in the time automatically. It shows your notes, shows your internal notes, all that stuff to verify that it's correct. It shows you your ticket properties. Bottom of there, right? If anything's like orange, that's what Dan talked about. It requires you to, TSI in this ticket. Obviously, my subtype was not selected, so it's highlighting it for me, saying, hey, you need to, put that in there. So it's a way to review. Next. And then there's a wrap up. What's next? Are we deleting, well, this is not a good example. We're not deleting the ticket, but what's the next status for this ticket to go in? And then I think the last one is, scheduling. Do I need to schedule it with myself, with another tech, et cetera? But it goes through a very user-friendly flow, so that any technician isn't missing any one of the few, many things that they have to do.
Now, add a quick comment here. The time entry by default is not going to be ended until the final step. So even though he sent this email, he's done all the other stuff, that last 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you would have in wrapping up the ticket, what's the last status, all that, it actually gets captured into your time entry.
Good point.
And,
Okay.
this, and then I also found it is that Nyleer just, you can get, just like any, Chrome, you can have 1,000 tabs and get lost on where you're at or what tab you're working in. Nyleer just makes it very easy, at least from a service manager perspective, where I can look at any other board, any other ticket, in one single pane of glass. I don't have to get lost in all the different tabs that you can have open in ConnectWise. I just found that, and you can see availability of your techs, what they're working on, in real time.
Cool. The other cool thing about Nyleer, Jay, you can speak to this, how you guys are using it, the mapping feature.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. Thank you. So one of the new roles that I added to the team was I added a full-time service coordinator kind of dispatcher role. We never had somebody doing that in the past. This person who came here didn't come from an MSP, kind of worked in a dispatch role for one of the ISPs. So we thought, give it a shot, right? Let me tell you, coming in and introducing Nyleer from the beginning when she started here, made dispatching quite easy for her. Really, we took all the heavy lifting out. Nyleer gives you some interesting features that we really like. The mapping feature will not only allow you to plot home addresses of each of your techs, but it also will throw in the addresses of where all your clients are, right? So when I'm dispatching somebody, we need to send somebody on site. We can dispatch them now, the closest tech potentially from home, right? Now, think of this. I mean, we're a small company, but I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call who may have a very large workforce, you may not know very quickly where everybody lives. This will, at a quick glance, put on your map, drop a dot there where everybody's living. What we had just this past week, I had a technician on site. When tickets are put in scheduling required status here, that will then take the put a little car, as we see on the map here. It'll put a car up there of things that need to be scheduled. When tickets are actually scheduled on site, it puts a different color car on. So just this past week that passed, we had a technician who was on site. We had another client who called in and wanted to see if we can get somebody on site immediately for a pseudo emergency, I guess, right? I had our dispatcher who was able to look up the map, and just so everybody's aware, I mean, we are in Rhode Island, but we have clients throughout Rhode Island, out through Connecticut, and up into Massachusetts as well. So we don't always know what's the closest TAC or if someone can be quickly redirected. In this case, we had a dispatcher who doesn't even live in the state, was able to pull up the map, see that we have somebody literally a couple minutes away, and then redirect them officially. Times past when I came in, dispatching wasn't so clean. And what we would see is I would find out after the fact, why did we dispatch somebody from a half hour away when I had somebody down the street? Those are things of the past. We don't have that happening anymore. We're able to send somebody out there. We're able to send the most appropriate person. Maybe it's dispatching somebody from home. Maybe it's dispatching somebody from a nearby site, but it makes sense. That's really the way to go. And it's really cleaned up the dispatching feature for us.
Great. Thanks, Jay. So we've had some questions. Keith asked about mobile, and so now we can talk a little bit about the mobile feature. So Dan.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take control really quick there if I can.
Okay.
And then I'm going to 1 sec. There it is. Couldn't find my share button.
Uh-oh.
Okay, give me. All right, so everyone should be seeing my phone right now. You're able to see that? Okay, so I just wanted to start this from scratch. I created a test ticket that's an on-site, and I just want to show you kind of the speed of, this is the mobile version. So since I have an on-site, first thing that's going to ask me is where am I working from? So I'm going to say I'm working from the office, and then it's going to say, okay, do I want to start traveling since I have an on-site? So I would say start traveling, and then I start driving. So as I'm going, you can see I have a little take a snapshot of the odometer if that's something that's required. And I'll do this kind of quickly here. It's automatically set my work type to being travel. So it's going to be automatic there, whether it's billable, all those kinds of things. I can pause it if I needed to take a stop, or I arrive on site. As soon as I arrive on site, now, and it may be hard for you to see this on the remote, but I can, how many miles did I have? I can put in my odometer stuff. Did I have parking? Do I have, did I have a toll, etc.? So I can go ahead and immediately right now submit those expenses. I'm going to say I have no expenses. And so now it's going to show, so this is my ticket. So as you can see up on the top, my test ticket is running, and I'm going to say, more notes. And you can see this is going to my internal. So I can do this while I'm on site. I can dictate my notes while I'm on site. And so I can just add, just keep adding to those notes as I'm going. Once I've finished, kind of move on. Now this is going to be my email. Again, this is to myself at this point.
Quick interjection there. You can add pictures too. So if you're taking pictures on site of things, there's a photo button. I literally just did this the other day. So, you're adding pictures to that in real time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's, for some, have a requirement of, hey, anytime you're on site, I require a photo of the server room before you leave. I want to see what it looks like every single time we leave. So then I can, send my email to the customer. In this case, I'm going to skip an email. And then the same thing that that John was showing you, on the desktop version, but this in the mobile. I'm going to go ahead and approve that time and then go ahead and mark that as completed. See, it's asking me for that config. In this case, I'm going to say, nope, I'm specifically not going to do a config. Some of the other little pieces that you have here, of course, you have your calendar, so you can see everything that you've got scheduled for the day. You can start working on any of those tickets. You can do your full ticket search. And you can, it does, if you rotate it, it's going to give you, a lot more room. Your availability that was mentioned here. So we can see you've got, I've got a person who's on site. I've got a couple people on vacation. I have a couple people who haven't updated anything in a little bit. And then I've got some people who are, and the locations that they're at. So this lets us know, very similar to like from the mapping standpoint, exactly where these people are. So if they move around, we know what's going on. Yeah, and so you can add your configs, you can add your notes. One other thing I'll just mention that's not necessarily specific to the mobile is that you have the ability to also add a note to a company note. So let's say you're on site, you made a change to the firewall, you can add a company note. So while in ConnectWise, they would have to have rights to go into that add notes on the finance tab, you can do that where anybody who opens up a ticket now will see, hey, this person, there's a note that says, I think John has some, this is the pronunciation of this person's name. You can have, we did a firewall update, make sure, if they're calling about connectivity, check the firewall, those kinds of things. And that is the 2-minute on how Nyleer Mobile works. Bill didn't think I could do it that fast.
You did a great job, man. You did a great job.
Yeah, it's I will say it is something that is a lifesaver. I use it every single day. I can also see inside of the when I open up a ticket, who else is working on a ticket. So, from a dispatch standpoint, if I was running dispatch and I open up a new ticket for for Penn Hills, I can see that Kane is currently working on Penn Hills. So I know, hey, let me pop over there and add this to his calendar while he's at Penn Hills. I don't even have to go somewhere else to look at it.
It's so much easier to use than the ConnectWise app. It's so intuitive.
Yep. And you
Yeah,
saw the speed that was on mobile, and the desktop is just as fast.
Yeah, we don't
So-
use ConnectWise Mobile at all. At all, we don't use it. And before Nyleer, mobile ticketing has just a complete struggle because ConnectWise Mobile is a disaster. It has been a disaster for us. So, and there's no training. I mean, it's the same interface whether they're on a computer, a tablet, an iPad. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. So there's been a few questions come up, which prompted me to think about, what kind of things did you have to change in your ConnectWise, to get Nyleer to work, or did ConnectWise, did you realize that, hey man, there's so many things going on our ConnectWise that we really don't need? Are we creating efficiencies by doing Nyleer?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit, Bill. I think your second question is really what I'm after here. We discovered a lot of inefficiencies that we had by moving to Nyleer. I think I worked with both you, Bill, and we've been on with Dan in the past trying to square up something as simple as what is the appropriate statuses necessary? Well, now realistically, we went from 10 statuses to half that. Our guys really don't pick statuses. They go through just the process of Nyleer, and Nyleer is set for several default statuses when you're working, several default statuses when you're complete, and that's it. So it took a lot of the thinking outside of the tech, and they just, are you done? Click complete. Let's move on. Is there more to do? Let's schedule it. Let's move on.
And then what about you, John? Did you have any?
What was the question? Sorry, I was reading some of the comments. I got distracted.
No, that's okay. Did you, we're talking about, you're implementing Nyleer.
Oh yeah.
Did you realize that changes need to be made,
I guess
did you?
our our thought process was that, we do pay for Nyleer, and we obviously pay a lot of money to ConnectWise. So my thought process is I want to get the most out of ConnectWise before I feel or realize I need to have some other third party, pay another service to do something else. So, again, worked with you and Dan over the course of, a year and again, we were fundamentally probably not using ConnectWise remotely close to its capabilities. So we went through a very long process to, formalize a lot of different things. And then when we got to the actual operational side of things, I'm like, okay, here's how everything's set. We realized that we could just be a lot more efficient with Nyleer. And to everybody's credit too, I think, there are things that we just didn't think about. And then Nyleer was able, we added some things after the fact, after using Nyleer that, so I guess it could go hand in hand with, either way, but that's the way that we got here.
Yeah, and I'll add a comment. One of the common things that I see get changed is service statuses. So having the difference between scheduling required. So often they'll just have like need scheduling, but this with Nyleer, if you want to leverage it properly, you're going to have a scheduling required on site versus scheduling required remote, and scheduled on site versus scheduled remote. The other thing that that I often see that people don't realize is wrong is how they're using work roles and work types. And so, they have to start thinking about a work role as the hat that you're wearing while you're performing work. The work type is like, is it lost or wasted time? Is this regular time? Is this on-site? Is it emergency? And so that oftentimes is going to require you to get those done the way that ConnectWise actually intended, which most people didn't realize that because when they were implemented, unless Bill's team implemented you, that was probably implemented incorrectly.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is that, and this applies to a lot of things in your ConnectWise, not just service. But, when you first started using ConnectWise, your business may have been different than what it is now. And you may have built complexities into the system thinking you might need them, or you may have needed them then, but you don't need them now, and so, as businesses mature, you create efficiencies just based on, looking back and saying, man, why are we doing this? Why don't we just, do this? And so a good example, John Cruz, I remember implementing Griffin Technologies ConnectWise how many years ago, right? And when we implemented it, we just implemented it based on what we knew at the time, and so then over the years, it's your company has developed and changed and become more efficient, and you have different offerings and things like that. And so you have to go through your ConnectWise and create and just make sure that it's in alignment with the business all the time, and having something like Nyleer is a good way to help you identify some things that need to be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'd like to make a comment too to one of the questions that was asked on, can you have multiple timers running? That's one of the things that I really love about Nyleer is, the reality is you're a tech or you're a service manager, whatever your role is, you start working on a ticket. As soon as you start working on the ticket, somebody says, hey, John, can you take a look at ticket ABC? And so then you go over to ticket ABC, but then did you remember to stop your timer in Nyleer? All that is irrelevant. So if I'm working on a ticket, another ticket comes in, or I get distracted, or somebody says, hey, can you look at this? I open up that ticket, it immediately pauses my timer that's running on the ticket that I was working on, and starts a new timer on this one. And then I get interrupted again. So I go to the third ticket, and then I'm working on that one. And then I go back, and as soon as I close that, it takes me back to the one that I was on before. And so it makes it really, really efficient. So we do this for like the daily differential or the daily dispatch ticket. So first thing in the morning, open up the dispatch ticket, start working, and then you're dispatching tickets. And so it's as soon as you finish dispatching a ticket, it takes you back to your daily ticket for your householding, for your block of time. So it makes that very efficient.
So Tony has a good question. Using Nyleer versus something like Thread and now CW Sidekick. I feel like those are different products that are different, have different applications. So I
Yeah,
don't know, Dan, if
Sidekick
you
is really
want
going into AI, is really going
Yeah.
into the AI side. And the idea of what they're trying to accomplish there is eliminating the dispatcher, which in some cases I can see, a use case for that. For me personally, I think that because service is being so commoditized, I think that the dispatcher is probably, a good dispatcher is the most important role that we have. And a really good dispatcher takes most of the work off of the service manager as well. So, I can be a full-time service manager in about 3 hours a day for a company with a good dispatcher. And so, it is definitely a definitely different issue. Nylear is really all about managing your tickets and your time very, very efficiently. So whether that's a project ticket or a service ticket, you can work those tickets and do that very quickly. There is also, I'll make a comment, we don't have time to go into it today. All we've been looking at is one module of Nylear, which is the service tickets, my stick. And it also has, well, we did also talk about the mapping. It also has a syncing function where you can synchronize your contacts from Azure, from Office 365. You can sync those into ConnectWise contacts. You can also sync those into your agreements for your counts, which is super, super critical. Does it much better than any of the other products out there. It also has a whole time, what they call the time machine, where it really lets you get down and dirty and really looking at where everybody's time is going, how they're putting in their time, how many tickets they're working on, time spent per tickets, time between tickets, all of that stuff is all built in. It has a configuration station to enable you to make sure that all your configurations are updated ever so often, has a gamification aspect of that as well. So it is a very, it's been around for a long time. It was initially created by two Chris's, an MSP who, they liked what was in the back of ConnectWise and didn't like the front end. And so over the last, I think it's been over 15 years, it's separated out as its own separate company. And as Bill mentioned at the intro, has continued to grow, but it's coming from the needs of somebody who's in the trenches, not somebody who had an idea of something that they can create to sell to someone.
Right. Yeah, that's really effective. Let's see, I want to share. Okay, so we have any other questions out there? If you do, just put them in the chat, right? Or speak up. So I want to share my screen here and show you the client mapper is something I use. It's pretty cool where Jay was talking about it for local stuff, but I thought I'd show you the client mapper that we have here at Focus Planet. It's kind of neat how many people we've worked with over the years. So we're down into New Zealand and Australia and even South Africa. So it's pretty cool. Client mappers. For me, it's neat to be able just to see, kind of brings back memories of everybody we've worked with. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the pricing. They have pricing on their website. It's pretty, I think it's pretty effectively priced. It's really kind of easy to see their pricing. This price, they're saying that this price gets you pretty much everything, right? Except for the Connect Active subscription.
You do, you get it.
Yep.
It does. It's just you can buy Connect Active separately if you only
Right,
wanted
exactly.
the Connect Active portion.
Yeah. The Connect Active is the one that Dan was talking about with where we're syncing users to your agreements. So if you bill by user, this is a good way to use this product for $100 a month. You can sync them to your agreements, which takes out a lot of agreement, a lot of billing, administrative overhead. And as
even
you
from
know,
a tracking, even if you're not billing by, this is a really important one that I always encourage people is to always track your user counts inside of your agreement, even if you're not billing by it and you're hiding it with an invoicing group. That way you're able to see your device counts, your user group, your user counts, and now you can start running some, historical reporting on, what is your hours per, per device, your number of tickets per device, and
Right.
Do you have things that are out of whack? Because that's typically how you're figuring out whether you're billing that way, what you're going to charge them. So are you doing it properly?
Right. Nylear also has a 30-day trial. So if you sign up for the 30-day trial, Dan, maybe you could help somebody, just get it off the ground or something. I don't know. I'm making that offer on your behalf, so stop me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The Connect Active, Jeff Jackson uses it, right? So, and Connect Active is really impressive.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what their roadmap is. Will had asked. I don't know if they have a published roadmap. I will say that they are doing, they do have dedicated development. So it is an ongoing, they've actually increased their development. And so features get added on, I don't know, maybe a weekly basis. Sometimes it's a couple weeks and they'll add another thing. A lot of those are, hey, I'm having a problem doing this. And so, in a week, you hit refresh. Here's what's new. We just added this thing that I asked for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a really cool development process.
Oh, Bill, you have I think there's a coupon code from a tracking standpoint that for Focused Planet. So as Bill had mentioned, none of us here get anything out of it other than, making your life easier. But there is a coupon code from just from a tracking perspective, and I think it does give you a 10% off of your subscription.
Yeah, let me find that. Afton, did I happen to send it to you? No, wait, I think I know where it is. Stand by. Stand by. I think I know where it is. In my let's see. Here we go.
And
We're
we'll
gonna
send out
this
follow-up email as well, so everyone has it.
Yeah, Afton will put it in the follow-up email. Here's the code. I'm going to put it in the chat. Gets you a 10, like Dan was saying. It's a 10% monthly discount. So
nice.
Price is already great, but you get another 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, you could buy a cup of coffee with that.
It's dirt cheap. Yeah, it's a dirt cheap product. It's amazing to me how inexpensive it is for everything that it does.
Yeah.
Like anytime I work with somebody who doesn't have it, it's just so frustrating. It's like, oh, you have to actually open up ConnectWise. And the only thing I typically open ConnectWise up for is to submit timesheets, and because you can't submit a timesheet or review timesheets, those kinds of things. But yeah, if I have to work on a ticket in regular ConnectWise, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, more along that line, Dan, and maybe that's something we should just chat about real quickly. I have all of my techs using Nyleer, but the admin staff do not. So, I have Jess who does our billing. She just works out of ConnectWise. It's easier for her to invoice and all that good stuff. But it's well worth it if I, to have the techs working out of Nyleer and just have one or two folks working out of ConnectWise. All the features that are in ConnectWise aren't really necessary for the majority of my company. I only have a couple people who need those features.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Bill Boston with Pack States. Dan made me a believer back in 2014, probably.
Yeah.
I've worked for 2 different MSPs during that time, and it's pretty much been one of my first requests when I come into the MSP. Someone earlier had said something about get your ConnectWise cleaned up. Even if your ConnectWise is cleaned up, when you implement Nyleer, you're going to find things you didn't know about. Right. So, get the tool, get it in there, get the trial going. You'll see those things, and then reach out to Bill's team. They'll definitely help you out. Dan is really good about helping out too. If you have questions, the whole team there is very responsive, whether it's Dan or I can't remember his sidekick's name that started it back in the day before they combined forces. And it's just techs are resistant at first because change, folks don't like change. But once they see, oh, I got a big green button, I jump in the car, I hit go. All I got to do is type what I'm doing on this line and I hit next. And then, oh, I don't want to email them. I hit next and I hit done, and I can get another green button to move on to my next task. It makes it a lot easier. And it makes it, as a manager, it makes it a lot easier to hold them accountable, because when they complain about it being difficult, I can just say, use your tools, and it's not difficult.
Yeah. And yes, Will, it does. It keeps all of those edition counts updated. And so that can be by Office 365 license, by Azure, AD, any of those or all of those counts can be automatically updated onto your agreements.
One hidden jewel that we haven't really talked about here. is the availability screen. I actually keep I keep that up on a TV here in my office, and it gives me real-time information of who's doing what at all times.
Yeah,
I
and that's
have,
also really helpful from a dispatch standpoint. So
Mhm.
one of my dispatch rules is if I have a level 1 tech working on a ticket for more than 40 minutes, they need to step in and say, hey, what are you working? Are you going to be about done? So you
Right.
don't come up, 3 hours later, they've been spending 3 hours on something that they weren't qualified to do. So I can see immediately, they've got, 2 tickets in progress. They've been working on this ticket for 45 minutes. Let's go nudge them and escalate it.
you're right on,
And
Dan. That's exactly
about the only product that you can do that with.
just the visibility that you have of the team, from a single pane of glass is like nothing we've seen before, and you certainly don't get anything even remotely close from ConnectWise.
Yeah.
So what about,
And
go ahead,
I was
Dan.
going to say, Jeff Jackson had put in a comment about Score My Team. I very briefly said gamification, but it has a whole, another one of its modules that's included is called Score My Team. And so you have all different ways that you can build a scorecard for your team. So it can be based on, real-time time entry. How close to real-time is their time? How much time are they putting, what's their utilization numbers? The configurations, using the configuration station, all of those different pieces can be added into a custom scorecard where you can then score your team that ties in very well into a performance compensation plan.
Yeah, that's how we're working through bonuses right now. That's exactly what we're doing.
That's cool.
And it's
Jeff?
the techs have real-time information as to how they're doing on their own scorecard. So it's not a surprise when you miss bonus, right? Or your bonus isn't what you expected because you knew all along this is where you were tracking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're running out of time, kids. Like to keep everything on time. One last question. Will is asking about incentive-based pay. So that's the performance compensation that we talk about here, right? Okay. All right. If you like more information about NILEAR, if you'd like to, if you think of a question that didn't come up in here, just reach out, and you can reach out directly to Dan, or reach out to me and we'll get a hold of Dan, get on a call together, whatever. So just let me know. I really appreciate everybody being here today. Afton, thank you for being here and putting this together this week. I know you're in a Wi-Fi challenged area right now, so we don't get to see you, but just know that we appreciate you being here and doing this. And Becky and Amy, always good to see you. Appreciate you taking time out of the day to attend this one. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Bill.